These are the gardens of St. Paul's Church in Covent Garden, and believe it or not, thousands of people are buried here. A lot of them are plague victims, but Scottish painter Thomas Murray was buried here somewhere in 1734, and English musician Thomas Arne, who composed Rule Britannia, has also lain here since 1778. Lying alongside them, however, is a man named John Thrift, and when he was buried here in 1752, people were not happy about it. Back in 1735, Thrift had been appointed to the role of public executioner, but a series of unpleasant incidents had soon made him particularly unpopular. On the 30th of July, 1736, for example, Thrift had publicly hanged a man named Thomas Reynolds at Tyburn, and then, when it all seemed to be over, had cut down his body and placed it into his coffin when a shocking scene took place. Reynolds, it quickly became clear, wasn't actually dead, and with the crowd watching on in horror, threw back the coffin lid and attempted to climb out again. When Thrift began dragging him back to the gallows to hang him a second time, the outraged crowd had stormed onto the platform and attacked him, but he'd stayed in the job regardless. After spending the next decade hanging, quartering, and mutilating hundreds for often trivial offences, however, his popularity had only gotten worse. But the most notable executions of his career then took place here on Tower Hill. On the 18th of August, 1746, he beheaded William Boyd and Arthur Elphinstone here for their roles in the 1745 Jacobite Rising, and then on the 9th of April the following year, infamously did the same to Simon Fraser, who we talked about in a previous Morbid Monday video. Less than 2 years after that, however, he then ran into some serious legal problems. After getting into a fight with a gang of Fraser's supporters on Drury Lane, he fatally stabbed a man named David Farris, and in an interesting turn of events, was sentenced to death himself on the 26th of April. When word got out about that, many had found it amusing, and this newspaper image shows him being terrorized by Fraser's ghost, along with a group of his other victims who were delighting in his misfortune. His sentence, however, had soon been commuted to 14 years of transportation, and then, when he appealed that, he was simply let off entirely, and to the fury of many, resumed his role as the executioner. When he finally died on the 5th of May 1752, many people, it seems, were glad that he did, and on Monday the 15th, when his hearse arrived here for his funeral, an angry mob pelted those attending with stones, bricks, and animal innards. As a result, his funeral actually had to be stopped, and it was only later that evening, when the crowd had finally gone, that they were able to lower him to his resting place. Don't forget to leave a like and follow. I'll see you back here next week for another Morbid Monday.